Igbo kwen, yeah. Cha 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 cha. Igbo kwezonu, yeah. Oko nyamili, nyamili.
And that is done with the Nigerian
Koko nyamiri, nyamiri, koko nyamiri, nyamiri. Ibole, ibole, ibobonu, ndamamihe. Ibole, ibole, ibobonu, ndamamihe. Ebulanyelu, 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 ebulanyelu. Anamabara na ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konye ofeke. Anamabara nụ n'ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konye ofeke. Igbo bụ n'ụdị ike, ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ụdị ike, ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ụdị ike, ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ụdị ike.
I love that music. And good morning. Good morning. It is indeed a beautiful morning. And what makes it even more beautiful is that we are a part of it, not just something that appeared overnight. We are part of that appearance. Here we are. Is that good? I love it. Thank you for joining us today, wherever you may be it in Africa, be it in the United States, and Dewo. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is going to be a very informative and spiritual program today. So it is my pleasure to welcome you. And before we go any further, I would like to bring in my co-host, Dibias on your hand.
No, it's a beautiful day. Every day above ground is a good day. I'm very excited, not just about the show today, not just the fact that we have continued this fight for the emancipation of people, the minds of people of African ancestry, but something is going on. There's a change coming to Africa, to its citizens in diaspora and on the continent. Something is going on. There's a change coming. Mali, Niger, Guinea, Rwanda, South Africa, in Nigeria. Something is going on, and it's all positive. And I am excited that perhaps we've come to the point where you cannot hold the people at gunpoint that don't want to be held. Change is coming. Be patient. It's a mind thing. Today is the power of the mind, and it is this mindset that we have now that is responsible for the changes that we're seeing globally in our African communities all over the world. So I am excited, very thankful to Chineke that we are at this point right now where it seems that there is hope for Africa.
Thank you. Thank you. There's always been hope. We just have to realize that we are responsible for bringing that hope forward. Before we go any further, as is traditional, we're going to present the chalk. I keep telling everybody, if you don't have the chalk at home, you need to find it. This is a very good and very important aspect of being a chaist, or at least being an African in Igbo land. This is so very critical. And this is called this charger, for those of you who don't know. And inside of it is the ground chalk. And you dip your right middle finger and you put it on your left wrist, because that says that you are welcome. And the heart is on the left side of the body. So that says that you are welcome, and we welcome you today, wherever you may be. Day one. Before we go any further, obviously we have to pour libations, and pouring libations today is Dibias Dozie, and Dibias is going to tell us a little bit about libations before he pours it. But before I bring him in, we'll just have to drum in the ancestors and get them ready to receive our token of gratitude.
Yes,
so this is a wonderful, wonderful practice that we Africans are involved in. So let's get started with the pouring of libations. Dibia, you have the floor.
Yeah. Good afternoon to all of us. Today is a special day. I've been asked to pour libation. So I wonder, most of you will wonder what this man that speaks English, why is he so dressed, and what has he got to do with libation? Well, I'm a chiist, and as a chiist, I'm a traditionalist. I practice the principles. I live by the principles, the religion of the spirituality of my ancestors. And things that my ancestors do is that they have this at home. This is called okunzu. It's either you have okunzu or okunzu, this earthen plate. So it's called okunzu. And there, of course, I have my white chalk. And of course, I've done my prayer before now, and that's what I use it to mark the 4 primordial forces, which we call the 4 market days. And then the person that has the knowledge is the Dibias. Then the principle holding all of them together is Abia. All right? Abia in English is what the scientists may call either. Okay? Then, of course, I got for authority. Also, that's this for authority. That's the alligator pepper. We talked about it one time, Usoji. Then, of course, I have my kola nut. I always put my kola nut in this so that it doesn't get dry. Because if you expose it to air, it will get dry. But bitter cola and kola nut, if you want them to last long, you just put them in a tiny cellophane like this. And this can stay for as long as 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months. It's just like this. All right? So my ancestors were fond of when they wake up, especially today being Eke. Eke is the primordial day, and it's water. It is female. And Eke is, according by Igbo tradition, is the day that Chukwu Okike, Chineke, created the universe. That the universe is created on the principle of Ofonogu, on the principle of primordiality and equiprimordiality and mutuality of respect, of moderation, of regulation. So, and the titled person, like Dibia, like Dibia Ochoaja, like myself, I am I'm Ogbefi in my family. And then, of course, I am the leader of my family. When I wake up in the morning, I break cola. After breaking cola, I take that aspect of the cola we call onoji, that part that grows, the shoots that grows. We give it to, because that's what represents life. We'll give it to our ancestors and Chukwu Okike Abiyama. And after that, we also learn from nature that when the Almighty God, Chineke, pours his own libation, I don't know if Chineke is both male and female, so let me not use gender to qualify it. So when Chineke pours libation, you discover that the arid parts of the earth that are full of thirst, because the thirst is assuaged, the ground drinks full of water, and then the ground becomes easy for us to till, fertility is improved, agriculture is improved, and the seeds we sow to the ground, which is the prayer we have made with the kola nut, and then we have thrown that aspect of the kola nut that grows. We've given it to the ancestors and to the earth, Mother Earth itself. The principle, primordial principles, we've given it to them. We're giving it to Chukwu Okike Abiama. Then we pour libation so that the prayers we have made with the kola nut will germinate, just like when the rain falls, the seeds we have sown to the ground germinate. Well, you either do your libation with water or with local gin. Usually I use local gin, and because Dibia has been using water, so you are used to water, I decided to use the local gin. Forget this I just choose this is just encasement. What I have here is our local gin. We still brew our local gin, and it's our local gin that they buy and take to Europe and then refine it and bring that to us as lords, as all other drinks and that you have. If you go to Igbo market, you see them exporting these things in drums, buying them up and exporting to Europe. So I know what I'm saying. So when I finish doing my prayer by kola, I also, usually for me, because of I break kola on a K-day. Like today, I've broken kola at home. So after breaking kola, I pour libation. And this is how I pour my libation. You're going to follow me. I start by calling the Almighty Chineke. Chukwu Okike. Eke keru akere fete fekere evurevu ke vereve. Magi ke ihe niile dị n'ụwa. Ma kpọkọ ogo ụbọchị taa wee kesi gị gbatuo ịnọsa anyị mmanya. Mụnwa Chidozie Okoro, mụnwa na-akpọ gị. Anyị nwa ụmụ gị. Ndị Chizim, anyị na-akpọ gị. Ma oke dibịa, anyị sokwa akpọ gị. Dibịa ọchụaja, anyị sokwa akpọ gị. Ka anyị kpọkọ Chukwu Okike Abiama. Ezumezu unu zukọ ndị egede, ndị mbụ, maka mpidi nsọmụkwụ unu, ara wuru arụ gbakọ unu, anyị so unu zukọ unu gbakọ, unu nụrụ olu anyị. Ndị Fara Ijipt, ndị lụta anyị ọgụ. Ndị ụmụ nwaanyị, ndị ọgụ, ụmụada, unu kọọ ndị bụ anyị ụzọ. Unu bụ zukọ Prempe, zukọ Shaka di Zulu, anyị na-akpọ gị. Eliselesa, anyị na-akpọ gị. Oke onye a sị anyị sị n'ụlọ anyị, nna anyị ọma, nwunye ke oke onye a anyị sị n'ụlọ anyị, unu zukọ Zik Nkrumah, ozugbo unu lụta anyị ọgụ. Asị m unu, anyị hụkwara aka unu, so anyị agazi. We can see the wind of change going through Africa, whether they like it or not. Our consciousness has risen. The ancestors have risen. Chukwu Okike Abiama has ordained that the wind of change will blow across and settle down in Africa. We are the future. The time for Africa to rise again and bring peace and equilibrium on the principle of Ofonogu, Ubuntu, has come. Otu akore. Otuto kwa diata. Asim kankwezu bochita. Otu akekeshita. Pashicha akpabie. Yere. Dinofo. Asim ya gaziere anyị. Chizim ga na-aga n'ihu. Si ihe ọma ihe ga na-adụrụ anyị. Ọ n'ọfọ. Si onye ndu anyị. Oke dibịa. Osimiri wọnya. Asị m ahụike ihe kpere gị. Ọ n'ọfọ. Dibịa ọchịaja. Ahụike ihe mkpere gị. Ọ n'ọfọ. Otu mkpere unu kpere Chizim ka mkpere onwe m, otu a ka mkpere onwe mkpere m ezinụlọ ma ezinụlọ ka unu. Ma ndị niile so anyị eme Chizim, ọ na-agaziri anyị. Ọ wụ n'ọfọ. Ọ ya adịrị anyị mma. Anyị ga na-ehe ochi na ahụike kwa ụbọchị, kwa izu, kwa ọnwa, site n'afọ ruo n'afọ. Otu aka omezu. A sị ka mkpọkọ unu zukọ otu anyị nke ka anyị kwetozu ụbọchị taa ekezicha ya mma n'ụbọchị taa wee kekpazicha so nweghị mkparị n'ọfọ. Ekenecha m unu. Ndewonu.
libations.
That was powerful.
Dibias chills.
Thank you.
He said,
Thank you.
Mama.
No,
you know, especially in big changes to Gaseno. You know, I'm so I'm but Obitamu Maike, yeah, the very no tour. So, yeah, guys, here, you know, Chineke. Chineke goes here. Cow.
Oh my goodness. That was just very, very, very timely, very powerful, very succinct, very moving, very touching, and right on point. Thank you. We're going to talk about the power of the mind. Ike Nke Obi, power of the mind. You know, the most powerful aspect of who we are, the most powerful part of who we are is the mind. When the mind is disturbed, so much happens. You know, in Igbo tradition, we say to you, Jesuike, go and rest. But what are we asking you to rest though? Because the body does not function without the mind. The mind tells the body what to do. So when we say, Jesuike, go and rest, it's not necessarily go rest your body. It is rest your mind so that your mind will condition your body and tell your body what to do. The rest only comes if the mind finds rest. Because that's where the power is. That's the source of everything, is your mind, because your mind tells you what to do. So Jesuike doesn't mean go sit down. Jesuike is to rest this, because the stress of the mind impacts every aspect of your being. The stress of the mind determines how well you're going to be. There is so much going on. We talked about it earlier. Dibias Chedozie said it. Chief Dibias Yudi said it. There is there's a wind of change, but some of that is coming with some stress. And the important thing is, are we prepared to deal with the stress that comes with change? Some people can't handle it because in the middle of change, some things work against you. And when they work against you, you don't know what to do. I want to play something that just will take us into our discussion today. And when I play it, then we'll talk about it. And that speaks a lot about our mind. I talked to my brother this morning and he was telling me about what some of the things he was thinking about. Saying, JZK, rest your mind. Rest your mind, because nothing positive happens with a strained and pressured mind. Let me share this video with you so you can, then we can. What you were seeing there is a woman in despair. Lost her business, no money. That's your Nigerian leadership. That's what it's creating. Out of despair, she wants to jump into the river and take her life because her mind is in distress. She can't control none of this. This does not matter. The hands, the legs, the everything. She wants to throw it all in the water because the mind is stressed. The mind is not together. So when your mind is not working, every aspect of you don't matter. Because if her hands mattered, her feet mattered, and all those other parts of her body mattered at that moment, she would not be trying to jump into the water. It's because the mind is stressed. The power of the mind determines what you do. I want to share this story about a gentleman who went to the hospital. Some of you probably heard about this, and I think it's just a very remarkable thing. He was sick. He was very, very sick. So his friends took him to the hospital. And he was admitted, and the doctor advised him to run series of tests, including HIV and all of that, to determine what his problem was. Malaria and typhoid tests came back positive that same day. While they were expecting the other test results, the doctor started treating malaria and typhoid. As he was recovering very fast, the HIV test result came and it was also positive. The doctor broke the news to him. He was devastated and broken. Within hours, all his body systems broke down. He couldn't eat and he couldn't sleep. Within 1 week, he had emaciated seriously to the extent he couldn't walk by himself again. Then something dramatic happened after 2 weeks. The lab discovered that they made a mistake with the results. They had swapped his sample with another person's own. He is HIV negative. The doctor got the news and summoned the courage to break the news to the patient. The doctor said, "I am so sorry about what happened." And the patient said, "For what?" The doctor says, "There was a mistake with your blood sample submitted for the HIV test." Patient says, "What do you mean, doctor?" The doctor says that we discovered that you are HIV/AIDS negative. The patient says, "What? Are you serious, doctor?" He says, yes, we are so very sorry. The guy couldn't walk for days. Who couldn't walk for days now, jumped out of the bed and started running around the ward in excitement. Everyone in the hospital was shocked at the scene. What happened? What changed? Where did the strength come from? It's the power of his mind. The mind is responsible for what you do. You live and die. See, when he was told that he was going to die, the mind succumbed to that reality. And because of that, everything else started going south. Your mind can kill you. Your mind can kill you. What you allow your mind to absorb into your subconsciousness or your consciousness will ultimately kill you. But when the mind is powerful, when the mind does not soak up fear, destitution, when the mind says, "No, I'm going to be all right," you will be all right. Many of us are suffering today because the mind has convinced us that, hey, you can't do it. You ain't good enough. So you know what? Nothing else works. That's what happened to that woman. You're poor. You don't have any money. And so what's the point of living? So what's happening to her? She wants to end it. Her mind told her that the rest of her does not matter. They said that the mind is the most powerful tool in the hands of an oppressor. I said it over and over. Stephen Biko said it to young South Africans. Your mind can make or break. Your mind can change things. See what's going on in Africa. You said that. Dibias, you said that. Dibias, you said that. The mind is changing. The mind has been convinced. No, you're not weak. No, you're not helpless. No, you're not hopeless. No, you have the right to be as successful as everybody else. As a matter of fact, the African mind is now being convinced that this is your land. You own this stuff. And you must use it for your good and the good of your children. You're not cowering anymore. Before we were threatened that, oh my God, if you do this, they'll kill you. See, let me tell you, nobody's going to live forever. Not me, not you. At some point, we're going to leave this earth. The important thing is, how do you live? You can live on the streets. You can die on the streets, on the bleachers, on the field, in the field. You're going to die someday. Then when you have decided that the fear of death is no longer as important as the power of the future, that's when everything changes. That's when you start moving. Africans are no longer looking for heaven. They are now looking to create heaven right here. Because they've seen everybody else. There are not too many rich people willing to die to go to heaven. There are not too many people willing to leave this earth. They are building here while we are trying to build there, wherever that is. And I'm going to talk to my brothers. Just remember, you are in charge of your community, of your society. What you live for your children is not the ambition of dying and going to heaven. You must live for your children what they can do right here. Teach them. You know, it's individualistic when all you think about is, I'm coming up. Y'all know that song. On the right side of the mountain. What are you doing? I'm doing my best to make it in. To make it in where? Where are you making it into? Some of the people who told you about heaven, they live right here. They're not dying to go there. And if they don't let you be in their heaven right here, what heaven do you think they're going to have over there? Unless they're creating something else for you to go to. Hold on to your mind. When the mind is empowered, empowering things happen. The environment becomes empowering. Your community is empowered. If you don't give up, if you just put aside your weaknesses, what the indoctrinated weaknesses, things that tell you that you can't. And that's why we are growing now. That's why Africa is waking up, because we're not scared no more. Thank you to our young people who understand this is their future everybody else is messing with. Your mind is a healer. Your mind heals. So when we say, Jesuit, go and rest your mind, because your mind controls everything you do. If you listen to these people lie to you, you will never change your life. Those who tell you where you have to go when you die, they're not hurrying to go there. Those who tell you your dark skin is bad, they are tanning to look like you. You need to use your mind and figure out what's happening. The game that's being played on you. Money is important, yes. Sometimes that money can be a death trap, because they use that. See, when your mind is caught up in money, you stop functioning. You don't think no more. All you think is that money, money, money. And then the sad thing is that you don't go to, they don't bury you with your money. Somebody else is going to enjoy that money. So what am I saying, ladies and gentlemen, before we start the conversation? The most powerful tool that you have is your mind. Don't lose it. Put it into action. Start using it. When you start using it, you'll be amazed at how your world changes. Not just your world, someone else's world. The law of compensation says that you get what energy you put out there. And where's that energy coming from? From your mind. The frequencies that you put out there comes back to you, boomerangs to you what you put out there. If you're weak, you're going to attract weakness or people taking advantage of you. But if you're strong and you verbalize strength and you act like you have strength, I guarantee you very few people will mess with you. That's why people don't mess with Chinese, because they flaunt their strength. People don't mess with the United States. They're human. They're no better than you are. Matter of fact, you are the one, African people, you are the one keeping them afloat. Without you, they will not survive. We are the ones holding up the world. When you talk about Atlas, you see Atlas holding up the world. Atlas is Africa. Because everything the world needs is in there. It's on our continent. Chineke blessed us tremendously. Let your mind absorb that. When the mind absorbs that, you'll be amazed at how far we are going to go. We're going to come back and talk, UD. I'm going to bring you in a minute. Short commercial, please.
Undewo. Long life to y'all. Hey, how y'all doing, man? You know what I'm saying? I'm just walking out here in nature, and I just felt like I had to say thank you all for showing us the support. Because I know there's been technical problems and been a lot of things going on in the world, but y'all stay and tune in every Sunday. And I much appreciate y'all for all the support. Over 11,000. I said 11,000. 111 subs on YouTube. So much love. Appreciate y'all. And I know there's over like thousands over in Facebook. But make sure to tune into our YouTube every Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Turn on the post notifications. Like, comment, subscribe. Gosh. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. It will be much appreciated. And y'all have a wonderful day and have a blessed day. God bless you.
Thank you. It's true. Thank you for all of you who are, we got to build our numbers. We got to build our numbers. Tell your friends, tell everybody that you can to go and subscribe to Season Live on YouTube. We're going to continue our conversation. Yudi, let me just share this comment made by Akachi Azubike. She says, money is made up social contract agreed upon. The mind is mental control between you and Chineke. If we are operating in our akaraka, that's true. That's true. That connection, money is man-made. There are people who are surviving with it, or people who are surviving without it. But when you're connected, the real power is that connection, that mind control, that connection with Chineke. You do your thoughts.
This is a deep one, especially since I don't have the professional expertise. But I'm just going to speak, as the humanist, and a little bit on the spiritual level. Stephen Biko once said that the mind is a terrible thing to waste. Now, let me repeat. The mind is a terrible thing to waste, because everything that happens in this world, in science, all manner of human endeavors, everything emanates from the mind. As a matter of fact, when a human being acknowledged their dependence on life-sustaining forces, religion became automatic in them. When the person concluded that they are dependent on the superior being, that conclusion came from the mind. Things run through your minds first. You assess situations through your mind. And when you assess situations, your mind leads you to conclusion. So the problem, a lot of times, is not necessarily the conclusion that you get to. The problem is what's going through your mind, because what's going through your mind is going to lead you to a conclusion that you're going to act upon, whether it's positive or it's negative. The lady that we saw on the video, the first thing that came to my mind was, what environment was she operating in, to the point where she felt she lost everything? Now she has to kill herself. What was going through her mind? What was her environment? Did she have any loved ones? Did she have any children? What is it that went through her mind where she now became a mental case? Probably the mental part of her sickness is depression. That's what I see. Not bipolar or schizophrenia, but depression, which is just as bad, because depression will lead you to the same action that schizophrenia will lead you to, that bipolar behavior may lead you to. But the bad thing about depression is depression usually, not all the time, but for the most times, depression leads you to actions that is detrimental to you, which, the fallout affects people, your friends, members of your family, so on and so forth. That's the thing about the mind. The mind, whether it's something that is actually based on, some chemical imbalance, which schizophrenia usually is all about, or some bipolar behavior where you have your highs and you have your lows and your actions are based on your mood, or just depression, which usually happens when you run things across your mind over and over and over until you convince yourself that there's no other way out, until you reach a conclusion, positive or negative. In her case, whatever ran through her mind led her to a negative conclusion, where she decided that the only way out is to take her own life, because she's not equipped mentally, emotionally, or psychologically to be able to deal with what life is throwing her way, because life will throw things your way. None of us here can tell you that it's always been gravy. We've had our ups and downs, we've had our mountains, we've had our valleys, but one thing that we must understand is it is part of life. Even the wealthiest people with all their resources go through the same mental anguish. He may be rich, but his health sucks. She might be rich, but she's married to this monster of a husband. He may be rich, but his wife and his children are just the worst people in the world. He's rich, but he has no friends. It's all about the mind. It is also the mind that has led Africa to start experiencing the changes that we're seeing today in Africa. It is a mind that has led us to the point where we say enough is enough. It is a mind that has led us to the conclusion that this heaven and hell is right here on earth, and I think we'll be better off seeking it right here than waiting for the afterlife. It is the mind that leads you to where you are today. It is your mind that tells you that you need to work hard to be successful. It is your mind that will tell you that you don't need to do anything. You just have to be lazy, especially if you're used to somebody taking care of you. They have now programmed you to come to the conclusion that you don't have to do anything. Somebody can do it for you. And that conclusion can lead you to places that you don't really want to be in. The mind, everything we do in life comes from the mind. And it is the mind that leads us to the conclusions that we come to that now determines what actions that we're going to take in life. Here's one thing I want to tell people. As a priest, I have a motto in my life. First of all, you take the good, you take the bad, you keep moving on. Good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. Being good doesn't guarantee anything. Being bad doesn't guarantee anything. I have seen people, drug dealers, murderers, come out, and the day they came out, they stopped at the liquor store, bought a lottery ticket, and won $25 million. It's happened. It is about the mind. Learn to program yourself positively. I personally, in my own spiritual journey, I always have this thing, and I tell it to my son all the time. Regardless of how bad it is, this too shall pass.
Yes.
That is inviting positive karma into a very, very bad situation. This too shall pass. It won't last forever. The idea that this situation that is negative will pass is what allows me personally on the spiritual level to deal with things that are detrimental to my well-being, both physically and mentally. You have no choice but to always invite positive karma. And positive karma usually comes because of the power of the mind.
Yes.
You let people play with you. As people of African ancestry, our minds have been played with for a long time, and that is why we're in the condition that we find ourselves in today in Africa, where we have no understanding of nation formation, nation building, and nation management. It is this jumbling of the mind that makes us think that it's possible to build a castle on sand that will stand for 1,000 years. It is this mind game, this miseducation of the African, this fracturing of the mind, filling you with all this alien information that has nothing to do with the core, that has led us to the place where one of the major problems that we have in Africa is self-hatred. It's the power of the mind.
Yes.
Hating yourself is the power of the mind. You hate your name. Instead of answering Ngozi, which means blessing in English, your name from Ngozi to blessing, because somebody has gotten to you in your mind and makes you think that the name Ngozi traditionally is evil. But that if you somehow interpret it into English, all of a sudden, all the evilness around that name goes away, because now your name is blessing as opposed to Ngozi. It is this mind game that makes you feel that you need to change your name from Chukwuemeka to Sunday because you're Christian. And if you're Muslim, who knows what you've changed your name from?
Yes.
I was watching something, and I'm really very happy about today's topic. I was watching a video about the march of the Ezes, of the chiefs in Nri. And they were all in their African outfits and looking so, prestigious and looking so dignified, and with the Uago like Dibias Chidozie has on and all that kind of stuff. Like I wear my Uago and all that. I mean, they had it all. Then the mind game came in. These are chiefs, Ezes, okay? These are Ezes, these are Ichies. These guys,
custodians of the culture. Custodians of the culture.
And in front of all their garb that they had on, guess what they had on there? A giant Star of David.
Aye.
These same traditionalists that are parading up and down, walking, the masquerade is there. He had the Star of the. So in their mind, this is the mind game. This is why Africa is as jacked up and screwed up as it is today. Somewhere in the mind, they think that they can marry their facade with a spirituality or religion that is alien to them. All human systems are products of religion. All of them. Economic, social, culture, civic. Every human system is a product of religion. And anybody who is not aware of it, listen to me. That's exactly what nation formation, building, and management is all about. You must be in touch with your primordial core. Your religious culture is responsible for the first societies that were built in this world. It was based on the understanding that you are not responsible for life-sustaining forces. When you ascribe that responsibility to something greater than yourself, religion became automatic in you before you even started talking about building homes, before you even talked about having families or anything. There is no way you can be the custodian of an African culture, Igbo culture to be precise, and walk around with Star of David in your African traditional garb and then try to convince everybody that you're custodian of the culture, that you know exactly what the heck is going on with African culture, with your primordial core. You know nothing. You are just like my daddy says, this is laissez-faire attitude to cultural responsibility. It's all about the mind, folks. You have to get in the habit of saying to yourself, it ain't so bad. This too shall pass. There is nothing unique about my situation. It could happen to anybody at any time. But if I have the right people around me, if I have the right mindset, if I convince myself that all I have to do is keep an open mind to this situation, that one day I'm going to come out on top. Things are going to change. This too shall pass, and I will be in control of my destiny. You're never out of control. You're never out of control. The only thing that you are not able to control are those things that you are not directly responsible for seeing through. If you don't pay attention to your ikenga, then you have no control of your destiny. It is your ikenga that leads you to the hallmarks of your akaraka. And that's it.
Wonderful. That is just absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. Let's go to Dibias Chidozie. Awesome, Judy. Awesome. Dibias Chidozie, please. Add your comments.
Yeah. I just like to sum up what Dibias Charger, his contribution and conclusion.
Yes.
Mind control is all about self-mastery. Onye mara onwe, ime onwe gị, knowing who you are.
Absolutely.
And knowing who you are cannot be distant from your environment. Because abogeto gelibea. And this is the principle of dialectics, that you must start development from self-knowledge, to your environmental master. You master self, you master your environment before you move out. So when you move out, you encounter the world beyond yourself and your environment. Maka onye ga-ekweta na ofe onye ọzọ ka nke nna ya ụtọ. You always believe that your mother's soup, no matter how, is the best. Maka otu ọbụla emere, ụlọ bụ ụlọ. Home is home, no place like home. And that's if you make your home truly homely. And so you have to start development from yourself. And when you have to start development from yourself, you have to be pure about it. Nothing alien comes into it. Nothing that looks like caricature comes into it. You can adapt. You can transform alien culture and adapt it to your own so that you will grow. And that's the principle of dialectics. Eating up and there in the world, in the natural world of things, there are only two kinds of animals, prey and predators. And in the world of intellectuality, spirituality, it's either you are a follower or you are being followed. It's either you're a follower or a leader. If you want to be a leader, then you must never have the mentality of a follower. And being a follower is different from being a conquered mind. A conquered mind is simply a slave. Because like we said sometime last year on this program, the easiest way to control a people is to conquer their minds. And so Africans have been conquered not in the flesh, but in the mind. Because Ugugi Wachungo wrote this in Petals of the Blood. Petals of Blood. Through one of his protagonists, Karega, the school teacher, primary school teacher, who went to school one day and taught the children revolution in Africa and why revolution in Africa failed. So children, do you know what? I teach you about the problem of the black man today and why the black man is not able to survive. In the beginning, the black man had a body, a mind, and a spirit. Then came the administrators crossing the oceans and flying over lands and came to Africa. Did he do that for our own interest or his own interest? Hunger in his land and pestilence drove him to our place where he sought for succor. And then he came, he battered the black man's body. The black man still fought back. Then they brought the teacher, the white man teacher, in schools to kill the black man's mind, and the black man still fought back. Then they brought the priest to kill the black man's spirit, and since then the black man died. Yeah. That is to say, like Dibias said, Dibias Church have said, we have keep mentioning this particular program. You cannot grow your mind beyond your spirituality. Yeah. Because the spirit in the body is responsible for life. The soul is part of the spirit, and the soul in the body is that mind consciousness. And so when your soul is not seated in your spirit, you are going to have a disembodied human being, which is what we are suffering in Africa, dissociated psyches. Yeah. That's what happened to that woman. When you have an uncoordinated self, then you are going to run to a point of despair. When you run to a point of despair, you give up hope. You become hopeless. You forget all the principles of Agu Nwere Chekube Adighi Igbu Mmadu. Yeah. He or she who is hopeful cannot be hopeless. You can't despair. You can't become a desperado. You will learn how to, first of all, master self, and by mastering self, you conquer self. When you conquer self, it means that the world, what happens in the world, you are not in charge. But how you react to what happens in the world, you are in charge.
Exactly.
And so
Yes.
whatever happens, so the first thing you have to conquer self. So when you conquer self, all the monies in this world, you will channel towards humanity, human development.
That's right.
All the wealth of this world, you will channel towards human development. You will not prize material things or anything in this world over and above humanity. And when you endow humanity, when you promote humanity, you promote Chineke.
Yes.
This is my little contribution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well said.
Yagazie, both of you, my goodness, you are bringing it to the table.
Well said.
You know what I'm excited about is that, well, the future of any nation is the youth. And those organizations, those nations that invest in the youth will rise. But it's even more pronounced when the youth themselves realize that they are the cause and the reason for their nation to rise. In other words, you cannot be a bystander anymore.
Yeah.
You have to play a role. And you playing a role doesn't mean you have to have money. Just reel in your mind and hold on to and use your mind to evaluate things yourself. No longer are the African youth willing to sit and listen to people tell them what they can or cannot do. I'm not saying that our youth need to be disrespectful of their elders. That's not the point, because that's not the culture. But what is going on now is that, thank God for the internet. All of them have access to mobile service. The very few young people don't have access to the mobile phone service. Even if they don't have a computer, they have mobile phone service. And that means they have access to lots of information. And one of the information that has been kept from them while they're so busy being miseducated, what is available to them now is the understanding that their homeland, Africa, has a lot of potential. That they have a lot of potential. And their minds are needed to tap into that potential. Are you aware, according to research, that by 2030, 1 in 5 people will be African? Think about what I'm saying to you. If that is the case, you cannot be in the shadows anymore. That means you're being prepared now. By 2030, you're going to be the leaders. You're going to be leading the world. And on top of all of that, look at what our young people have access to. Technology. If 5 people will be African, and I don't mean just continental, I'm talking about globally, even diasporan. If 5 people in the population by 2030, if 5 of them are African people, and they have access to technology, if we can incorporate improvement in infrastructure, if we can incorporate good health systems, if we can improve their education that's wrapped around who they are. You see, what we have to understand is survival of the fittest. You may like it or you may not like it. What other races or ethnicities, if I may use that, because there's only one race, the human race. Other ethnicities, what they are doing is trying to survive. Sometimes they do it very crudely and cruelly. But it's a mechanism for survival. So it's important that we have that survival instinct as well. So take advantage of what's available to us to build up our people so that more of our people will survive, more of our people will achieve. And you cannot do so when we're talking about all of this. Educate the children with Eurocentric concepts. That still holds them back. So moms and dads all over the world, It is now your responsibility to ask, what is your child learning? What is being put in your child's head? If Africans are going to emerge a successful part of the human race, what are your children? We don't want to say, 5 out of 10, by 2030, and 5 people will be African. It means nothing if they don't learn the significance of who they are. If we have more uneducated Black folks, you might as well just, it's no big deal, because it means nothing. This is how powerful we need to let our children know. 54%, according to statistics, 54% of the 2.4 billion global population in the coming decades will be Black people. Like it or not, that's reality. So what are we doing with that? What are we going to do with that kind of population? This is what we're talking about today. The mind. We need to improve what's accessible to our children. And part of what we must teach them is to hold on to their minds. And not only hold on to their minds, add positive and incredibly important things to those minds. And let me just add this, and I'll ask Nnamdi Oyudi to give us his addition. See, let me tell you something. The worst parents, yes, I said it. The worst parents are parents who put their children in these so-called Ivy League schools that don't care about them, but they are African-centered schools that care about them, that are struggling financially. It does not make sense. We have an opportunity to build our own up, but we take our money and put them where? Yes, because we want to say they went to an Ivy League school. Cool. Whatever. But what does that really mean? You talked about nation formation. How do they build? Do you know some of the most successful African Americans attended SBU colleges? They attended African-centered colleges, SBU colleges, many of them. If you ask them what university they went to, they'll tell you. And that's because the university wants to see them rise. There's a school, I can't think of that school, that was shut down. 10 years ago, it was shut down. It's an African, oh, please forgive me, I can't remember the school. I was listening to it on the radio. 10 years ago, it was shut down. It was a good school, and many African students loved to attend there because the teachers, everybody cared about them. But because of financial difficulties, the school shut down. And who benefited? The school that's not an SBU benefited, because now our children are going there. But this African-American gentleman that was hired, the school was 20 million, I think it's $20 million in the red. They hired this young African-American gentleman who brought in people like him, young people. And they said, we're going to turn this around. We need this school for our children. They worked, this school just reopened better than before. 10 years in the red. But they worked it because they knew the significance of African-centered education. Not this, look, it's survival. It's not racism. It's survival. And to survive, the mind must be open to receive information about who you are and how you can contribute to your nation. nation formation. I was so proud. You should hear this young man talking about this university. Everybody gave up on him. As a matter of fact, when he was hired, he was told, "You don't waste your time. That school is shot. 20 million." He says, "That's okay. That's okay. We'll bring it." And they work. They work like, they said they work like they've never worked before. They didn't pay attention to the naysayers. They were concerned about the minds that would be educated in that school. And they brought it out from the valley onto the mountaintop. And now all the African-American students are trooping in there because of the significance of learning about who they are. Dibias, your thoughts?
Yeah, I love that story. That means it's the time, because if you go to the Rosicrucian spirituality, that's what they call mental magnitude, which Obafemi Awolowo developed in his political philosophy. When it is time because the people will attain what you call mental magnitude. Like we said once on this particular program, a tree does not make a forest, no matter if that tree is an iroko. A tree is a tree, and it cannot do what trees do. And like we said once on this program, you'll find iroko in the midst of the forest, at the heart of the forest. Meaning, like we say in Nigeria here, before storm gets to the iroko tree, other trees don't collect. So before the storm gets to the iroko, it is weakened already because other trees don't collect. Same thing with flood. Before the flood gets to the iroko, other trees have collected. They don't collect. And so there is nothing like a Gadabachiruza. You are an Agadabachiruza because you are an iroko in the midst of the trees. It is time for Africa to rise. Remember, that was sometime last year in this program, I said, by the Rosicrucian Digest, we are in the aquarium age. And the only thing that I also sometime early in this year, we also mentioned in this program, the only way to survive in this age of information, which they call Gen Z age, is group consciousness.
Yes.
Group consciousness. That's the only thing that will make us survive. And so all these crises going on in Africa, in Nigeria, all over the world, it is time for Africa to rise.
Yes.
And if you go by the concept of what happens in the stars, up there in the stars, when it is time for new stars to be born, the black holes will swallow the old stars, shred them, and bring out new ones. And so when this process begins, there will be a lot of inundations, human inundations. And in the Namahonwa, those who don't reflect and follow and listen to the winds of the time, they don't listen, they don't meditate, they will be, no matter how you do it, we cannot escape sacrifice. They will become the myth for the times to swallow. You'll be telling them, when did we talked about patience one time in this program, I think about 3 months ago. They will not have patience. They'll be led by emotion. And they'll be eaten. So it is time. All that is happening in Nigeria. Remember, Nigeria is at the trigger point of Africa. And if you look at the part of Nigeria that is Nigeria, the whole of Nigeria is in turmoil. North, west, east, center. So what is going on in Nigeria now is, by the time we finish, the old empire that has been built in Nigeria will cease to be. Those powers holding Nigeria down will cease to be. Both the internal colonizers and the imperial lord in Europe, they will lose hold of Nigeria. It may happen that we will first of all disintegrate and then rebuild a Nigeria of our own. By that time, the name may not be Nigeria anymore, may become Nubia, may become anything that we choose to call it, then we'll form a nation of our own, and then we begin to harmonize our cultures, our different cultures, we begin to harmonize them to the center. And then we will sit, like if you go to the river, if you go to the water world, Each water world has its own level, from ponds to streams, streams to rivers, rivers to seas, seas to oceans. And that's how they have their water level and water tables. Then you discover that then birds will begin to cry like birds, and animals, each animal will behave like it used to be. Not these sort of things that you have predators and prey put together. So at will, predators can just take any prey they want and eat it up. Nobody asks questions. All that will stop. But before that happens, a lot of inundations, human inundations will occur. And that is why we are telling people, key into Chi's spirituality as an African, so that you will listen to the changing wind blowing, and you will not be made a scapegoat. You will live to see the new dawn that is coming.
Yes.
It is coming, and
It's
we will
coming.
live to see it.
It is
They
coming. They will. Before I go to Dibias UD, I just wanted to make this comment about some of the misconceptions about members of our society we need to put aside. What do I mean by that? They ignoring the needs of women is to our detriment. It's to our detriment. Because when women, particularly when we talk about women, I'm talking about like health challenges that women face that we don't pay too much attention to. But these health concerns are debilitating. And when the women are debilitated or disfigured because of, like what is that, female genitalia mutilation and all that sort of thing, that's disfiguring, that's psychologically damaging. And when this happens to a lot of women, they're pushed aside, and many of them die, and many of them are not productive. So when we are talking about nation formation, we must take into consideration building up our women, because there are more women, believe it or not, in Africa, and quite frankly, the world, than there are men. So that is a very powerful force that you're not utilizing. As you talk about it, a one-legged man cannot go into battle. Your other leg is your women. Put them there. What is it going to hurt you? It's just going to make you even more powerful. After all, not only that, they're the ones that bring forth your generations. So if you treat them well, they treat you, the man, well, and they treat their children well. A woman who's suffering and smiling to a husband who's abusive is just doing that. That's not what's in her heart. If you want a happy home, UD says it all the time. You want a happy home? Make sure your wife is happy, because that's when you're going to be happy. That's when UD likes a egusi soup. That's when he gets a lot of egusi soup. That's when he gets a lot of egusi that he likes. When the wife is happy, trust me. So when the sisters are happy, trust me, our brothers in Africa will be happy. So don't push your sisters away. Pay attention to their needs. Pay attention to their health needs, their psychological needs. If you're married to a woman, you don't have to be rich to make a woman happy. I'm going to tell you very honestly. Me, I take care of myself. I don't need any man to buy anything for me, because I can get for myself. But let me tell you, those moments where you're on your own, I didn't tell you, you say, hey, come on, let's go to eat. Honey, you're my best buddy. Let's go there. Let's do this. Are you willing to go? I don't have to pay for it. Oh, you're the man. You understand? All that stuff. But it is so important that we take into consideration building up the army. That's what I call it. Sisters are your army, my brothers. We're the army you need. We're always going to France. You see what that has brought you. You go to the United States. You go to Germany. You go to the Chinese. You beg them to do for you what your sisters can do. They are women with such powerful minds, with the right education. You don't need all these folks. You got the power right there. You got the sisters right there. They can help. But they're all, most of them are selling stuff in the streets. Most of them, because they don't have the opportunity. And then when you look at leadership, you have these Men getting all kinds of money for doing what? Nada. Oh, I just want to talk about this right quick, and then you come in. Just recently, the president of Nigeria gave palliatives because of all the hardship, the financial difficulties, economic challenges in Nigeria. So tell me if I'm right, Dibias. What was it? 800, what is it? 800,000 bags of rice or what? Is it 800?
What? 1,200 bags of rice
For
for Kwara State. With let me just get it here. You will laugh to your Bible. Hey, let me get it quickly. It's very, very funny. Really, really funny what they are turning everything to. So there it is. Read it. It says, let me explain for the interest of those who don't understand Yoruba. The entire Kwara State was given 1,200 bags of rice. Kwara State has 16 local government areas. One local government has 12 wards times 16. Right? 8 bags were given to a ward. In a bag, we have 36 bowls or ike. That's this paint buckets, paint buckets. That small paint bucket. That's what we call ike. So we have 36 of it. Half bag of rice will be shared by 3 streets. 3 streets. Then that comes down to one bowl or ike of rice now has to be given to an entire street. Not a household though. One bowl of rice. That is, I said, and here it says, this is APC palliatives. Allow the poor to breathe. Oh.
Yes. you see, this is why, very honestly, you need visionaries to become leaders. In this whole scheme of things, as things are changing, as Africa is changing, as the minds are being opened, as old assumptions are being discarded, you need good leaders. Because anybody who thinks that giving this kind of palliative to a whole state will be helpful, I mean, I'm not sure that person mentally is intact. I'm going to give UD an opportunity to step in here and share his thoughts.
I'm going to be long-winded a little bit, so y'all just all have to bear with me. I've got a lot to say. It's just a lot on my mind. It's 11:12, so I'm going to take up a little bit of a time, but I know we'll cover quite a bit. And for people that are really interested in how to control their minds and how the mind affects their behavior and leads them to conclusions that are detrimental or beneficial to them, I think they've heard quite a bit already to at least guide them along those lines. But I need to touch on something you said, okay, Dibia, and I'm going to touch on something Dibias Chidozie said, which is very, very appropriate. First of all, how did we get to the point where we think less of ourselves, like we're less than everybody else in this world? How did we become less human? How did we become get to the state of mind where we think we're not deserving of the same blessings as other nations, other peoples have, other communities enjoy? Where did we get to this self-defecating way of looking at ourselves where we think that it's appropriate to just sit there and take it, like the palliative thing you're talking about? How did we get to the position where the government thinks that 1,000 bags of rice will cure a whole nation of 280 million people of economic hardship? How did we get to the point where this government decided that it is appropriate in our times of need, when we're at the lowest, to insult our intelligence? How did we get to this point where we actually take it and then write about it in the newspaper and then act as if it's just something that is comical and we could just laugh about it and brush it off, without marching up to the steps of the State House and tearing everything down? How did we get to this point where we now feel that we don't deserve better from the outside world, from inside Nigeria? Nigeria has destroyed itself from within, not from outside. Nigeria has destroyed itself from within. Yes, we know about slavery. Yeah, we know about colonization and all that stuff. But we had leaders that fought for our independence and put into place principles and ideas to get us out of it. And somehow we've allowed foreign religion to mind you know what us into oblivion where we don't think anymore. And when we tell people that the problem of Africa is foreign religion, because it is this foreign religion that has controlled our minds, which is our topic today, that has led us to the conclusion that we are worthless, that we're not deserving. And we look at ourselves that way. And I'm here to tell you, we are worthless because of how we think. Yes, I'm raving and ranting. I'm really, really upset that the Nigerian government thinks that they can solve Nigeria's issues with 1,000 bags of rice for a population of 208,000 people, 280 million people, and we're sitting there and we're just taking it. We don't deserve any better. I just had to get that off my mind. And when you were reading it and she was talking about it, I found it so infuriating, so annoying, so insulting. It just bombarded my mind that led me to the conclusion that I needed to rant about it and put it out there, that instead of sitting around and writing in the newspaper about it and thinking that it's a joke, we should be out there tearing the place down. Maybe that's what they understand. Now, secondly, Dibias talked about this right before I started my rant. What can a man do without a woman? What can we do? You certainly can't have babies without them. Tell me what you can as a man do without a woman. I really want to hear this. You can type that in the comments. Tell me what it is as a human being, as a man, that you could do physically and spiritually without a woman. Tell me how you can exist without her. Tell me how you could come into this world without her, unless you buy into Adam and Eve being created from the soil. Let's get scientific about it, because God and science are strange bedfellows. Better walk hand in hand. Whatever it is that you can explain scientifically was made possible through creation if you are spiritual and you believe that God created everything in the universe. Then your understanding of that creation based on science is just you trying to decode aspects of existence to allow you to do better, to control your environment, to treat it with a lot more respect, because it is that sustains you. So a good understanding of weather patterns, of diseases, of those things that affect you is a good thing. It is spiritual, it is godly, it is religious, and it is scientific. They exist together. So when people tell you about science and religion and then they start trying to get you confused, no. Religion and science are one and the same. No difference. Science is just your understanding of these spiritual forces and how they function. It's an explanation. And as time goes on, as your mind, which is the topic of today, evolves, you get a better understanding of it. Dibias mentioned about the idea that in nation formation, that the only thing that can set us on the right path is not individual thinking, but group think. When the community comes as one to think alike and understand how they got here in the first place, then there's hope. Then there's cohesiveness. Not this individual, everybody just joking on, laissez-faire attitude about everything. That's probably what led that woman to want to go kill herself, because she was thinking about herself. She wasn't thinking about anybody else, her children, her loved ones, those people that are going to be affected by her absence. She wasn't thinking about that. It's unfortunate, but depression is a terrible thing. So I don't blame her. I'm just explaining what may be going through her mind and things that she probably would have taken into consideration. when we fought for independence in Africa, particularly in Nigeria and the Cameroons, it just wasn't about the physical emancipation. Take the chains off and take the chains off your neck. I'm free you, so you could just wander around. I'm free now, master. It was also about emancipation of the human mind, because our forebears, those that fought for our independence, understood that you not only needed to emancipate people physically, but you also needed to emancipate their minds to get them ready for nation formation, building, and management. So they formed the National Church of Nigeria and the Cameroons, which in 1962 formed with the Ido National Church, headed by Oba Ekanswa II of Benin, to form Gordianism, Chiism. That was the idea behind it. To free your mind, so like Dr. Dibias just said, we can cohesively come together as a community, have a level of groupthink, have the same direction, so that we can emancipate ourselves for real. The good news is that there is an awakening going on, and we can see it. It's in the media, it's in the news, it's in the bars, it's in the conversations that we have on Facebook, on the internet, on Twitter. We could see people coming out. I remember I was watching a discussion, and this is a reverend. This is a Christian preacher in church. Something happened to him. There were about 2,000 people in his congregation at that time, but something just came over this guy. And I was listening to him, and he totally blew my mind. A Christian preacher blowing my mind. And I'm not talking about telling you how to behave and how to be nice to one another, how to be good to one another. That's not what he was talking about. Something happened to him, and he asked the congregation, does anybody have a King James version of the Bible? Somebody gave him the King James version of the Bible. He told them that this Bible, I'm just using my cell phone as the Bible. He said, this Bible is responsible for all the evil and all the ills in Africa. This Bible. This is a Christian preacher. All of a sudden, something happened to him. I don't know, lightning struck him or something. He said, this Bible, this King James, is the most dangerous weapon in the hands of your oppressor. That they have convinced you that the King James Version is the true word of God. He said, in this version, it tells you that it's going to take, it'll be easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get to heaven. He said, and you believed it. He said, this Bible here, the people that made it possible was the royal family, one of the richest families in the world. Now, do you think that the royal family, when they gave you this Bible, were thinking that they are not going to be able to get to heaven, and gave you this Bible and roll into it, that it would be easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than you go to heaven? He said, this Bible, there's a company called Thomas Nelson Publishing. It is the richest publishing company in the world. They're the ones printing this King James Version of the Bible. He said, every time you get your hands on the Bible, it's never given to you for free. It used to be free. But after a while, it wasn't free anymore. He said, anytime you get this Bible, it's so expensive, you have to pay money to get it. And when you pay that money, you make this publishing house so rich, and yet the money that you're paying for this Bible, they're telling you this Bible that rich people will not go into heaven, but the publishing company is the richest in the world. People started clapping. People started seeing it. It was just a little minuscule part of this discussion about how this book has jacked up our minds so much that we hate ourselves. We validate our worth by standards that are not of our own choosing. We have not even one school of higher learning, or maybe even primary school, that is recognizable, that is dedicated to Black people the world over. When you talk about Ivy League, like you mentioned, Dibias, And you talk about Ivy League, and you talk about how we want to prefer, black folks want to go to the Ivy League and all that stuff, which was built by their own community. Do you think that the Japanese computer scientist or medical doctor cares about American Ivy League? His doctoral degree and his PhD and his academics came from Japan. And in his environment has a little bit to do with his history. Brandeis University here in Massachusetts was founded by Jews. It was based on the Jewish culture. Its focus is the liberal arts, but it has one of the best medical schools in the country, in the world, Brandeis University. Why can't we, as people of African ancestry, just dedicate something to people of African ancestry, particularly in the areas of education, because that's where it starts. It starts with the mind. Feed the mind the right kind of information so that it could come to the right conclusions and make the right decision based on information that is primordial to us as people of African ancestry, so that we can begin to appreciate our contribution to civilized behavior in all areas of human endeavor. Because if you ask any African, including me, ask me what Igbo people did 2,000 years ago, I have no idea. Ask me what some Ghanaian did. All the Ghanaians can tell you about is the Ghana Empire. And Ghana Empire is not Ghana. Ask some Zulu what they did 2,000 years ago. They can't tell you that. We are unable to discuss our history beyond, and I repeat, discuss our history or our contribution to civilized behavior in any area of human endeavor beyond from the point of view or the perspective of lack, want, gimme, 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 free me, give me my freedom. Fela said, you can't give me what God already gave me. If we're not talking about Harriet Tubman, who helped with the Underground Railroad, they were talking about Sinke, who led a revolt. We're always talking about how we were trying to extricate ourselves from this net of inhuman treatment, of wickedness of the black men and women. We never talk about what we did before. That's where our salvation lies. When we start talking about things that we did before the Middle Passage, before slavery, before colonization, how we contributed in architecture, how we contributed in art, in math, in all areas of human endeavor, in the sciences. You look at African architecture. I could go to India, and Indian architecture just represents something that is grand about India. In Africa, we're building concrete and cement houses, emulating the European, what they brought to us, and nobody really sit around and think about modernizing African architecture as food for thought for the world to look at in envy and say, wow, these people were great. They are still great. You can look at African architecture from a grandiose point and say, wow. Then see the pyramids, resurrect that stuff. And see the pyramids of Nkuru, where I come from, and Abreba, resurrect it. The British in 1931 did everything in their power to destroy it. The last pictures that were taken of the Nsudi pyramids were taken in 1931 before they were bulldozed. And if you go over there today, you will see nothing.
Yes.
Fortunately, the guy that took those pictures, his name is G.I. Jones. And he published it on the internet. That's how we knew about it. Before 1997, I had no idea that we have pyramids over there. So my point is, the mind is the greatest tool in the hands of the oppressor. And in your own personal life, your mind is everything.
Yes.
Your mind is responsible for the relationship you have with people around you and your environment. How you see yourself, how you look at yourself.
That's right.
The decisions that you make, how your opinion of yourself and those people in your community influences your should I say, the power to act, to do something like we're doing on Cheers and Live, to have the courage to talk about things. This is something that has been lacking in African communities for a long time. America demonstrated it during the civil rights movement.
Yes.
Nigeria demonstrated it when we were
Right.
fighting for independence from the British. The Ghanaians did. Rwanda, Nzinga of Udongo fighting the Portuguese. We had great leaders in Africa that had courage, something that has been lacking, and it is still lacking. But fortunately, in some areas in our communities, the courage to revolt in Niger, the courage to revolt in Mali, the courage to revolt in Guinea, the courage to revolt in Nigeria, and tell Tinubu that the rightful president of Nigeria is an Igbo man. The evidence of their prejudice in Nigeria with the current government, where most of the officials in federal government are Yoruba. How many Igbos are there? Peter Obi is a legitimate president of Nigeria. This is my personal opinion, not the opinion of this program. So let me just put a disclaimer right there. This is my opinion.
Thank you.
Come on, my opinion is that the wrong man is the president of Nigeria, and I have the courage to say it, and I'm not afraid of what happens after I say it, because it has to be said, and that's it.
Oh my goodness. You just on fire today. I was saying, let it all out. Let it all out. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break because now I want to respond. I want us to respond to some of the things that our members, our participants here are talking about, you see. And UD, you said it. You said it all. Dibias, you said it all. And now we're going to have you guys just briefly respond to some of the comments. But before we get started on that, I don't know what happened to, there we go. Before we go into that, I just want to remind us as Cheers, there's an African proverb that says, and I think that's what Dibias UD saying. Beauty starts from within. We need to look at ourselves, because if every individual mind is doing well, then the collective mind will do very well.
Yeah.
Each one of us have a responsibility. Each one of us have a responsibility to make things change. I think, unfortunately, sometimes we're bystanders. We read what's in the news. Some of them excite us. Some of them depress us. Some of them motivate us. Most of them don't make us do anything. So even though we have access, I think Akachi said it. You know, it has become a form of this entertainment technology. It doesn't necessarily get us to do something. There are some times when collective movement is necessary, like the obedience and all that sort of thing. And of course, Black Lives Matter. The internet had a lot to do with that. But there are still many of us who are bystanders. If the law of compensation should happen, which is a mindset, it helps you to grow. I'm talking about you as a chaist. For you to continuously grow, to increase your value and contribute to the community, you must allow certain things to happen within you. Marasulo apwezi. I don't know how many of you can say that. Marasulo apwezi. That means that beauty, good things start from you before it spreads in the community. It is an approach that's time. But we need to absorb that in our minds, since we're talking about mind. It's not about what Uncle UD is talking about. It's not about what Dibias did.
What happened?
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. She's just talking. I'll send her a message. I'll send her a message.
For whatever reason, my brother lost me somehow. But anyway, if I may just reiterate what I was saying. What I'm saying is it's exciting that we all gather here on Sundays and we listen to this sermons. We don't mind giving it. But what we hope that happens is that you take some of what you hear and do something with it. Akachi said something about technology. You know, sometimes technology has become something that it actually deprives us of individual thought, because some of it entertains us, some of it, motivates us. Some of it does a whole lot of things, but sometimes, unfortunately, we don't do anything after we leave. Sometimes we just go back to the old ways. And sometimes you know that people are not paying attention, even what they hear in church, because if you find somebody who will kick out somebody's begging for alms, help me, but you've gone to church. I mean, Dibias, you've seen this, and most of you have seen it, where somebody's begging and people are walking past them, or him or her, and not offering anything. I mean, you didn't hear anything, and it sounded good, you enjoyed it, but it didn't mean anything to you, didn't learn anything from it. Okay, so it's really so important that we, as chiefs, when we live here, rather when we leave here, we ask ourselves, what are we going to do now? What's the next step? I talked about the law of compensation. It's a mindset. It is a mindset, and your growth depends on it. Your value system is impacted by the law of compensation, because it's what you put out that comes back to you. So you ask yourself, as a chief, what am I going to put out to my community? What is it that I'm going to do so that my community builds through me? Not just, I mean, the collective thing is important, but what about me? What is your effort? What is your contribution? What is it that you're adding when we are making cultural glue, when we are making spiritual glue, when we are making all the glues that bring people together? What are you contributing? What are you putting in there? One of the mindsets that we need to change is that we must be rewarded for everything we do. And if you don't see a reward, then you don't want to do it anymore. That's a mindset that we need to change. And that is like, oh, you know, my community is messed up, so I don't want to do anything to help my community. I have to go elsewhere where everything is already in order. That must not be what you do. Mari, your beauty coming out has to come out wherever you find yourself. Not just where people are like you, who are wealthy like you, but even in the environment where the need is greatest. The work that you do must be the reward. And then what happens is everything else follows. And on you as a chief, you have to be willing to do a little bit more than is required. Just go a step further. Don't just expect. Be the person that just does that little extra. Sometimes people emulate you when you do just a little bit more. When you're not caught up with, you know, I don't want to do anymore. I've done enough. But you never do too much for your community. I mean, there's some things you can't do, I get it. But whatever it is you can do, go beyond expectations that people have of you, because there is this notion that Black people don't do. Black people are there, man. You know she's a woman, oh, you know she's a man, oh, you know she's Black, oh, you know, all of those little things that we use to designate who can do and who cannot do. Go beyond expectations. Go above and beyond the requirements. Do whatever it is you can. And some of it doesn't have to do with money. And that's where we get stuck. I don't have no money. It doesn't have to be money. It could be a kind word. It could be just helping. It could be sweeping. You see an elder whose house is, the front of the house is all messed up. You can go and sweep in front of the house. You can even just go and have a conversation with a lonely old man or a lonely old woman. If you see a child struggling with math and you know about it, do you know math? Help that child. Whatever you can do in your community, that's where marriage focus on your strength. Make sure that you focus on that which not only gives you your pride, but can be used to make things better. Leave the world better than you found it. Use your creativity to better your people, to better your environment. There's nothing I find most disturbing than an environment that you have grown for and it's dirty, it's got trash. Who are you waiting for? When you're killing who's supposed to do that? That dirt on that floor, those tissues, when I go for a walk, sometimes I carry a little bag, not all the time, but sometimes I carry a little bag and have my little gloves on. If I see trash, I ask myself, who's going to move it? Particularly when it's in front of my house. I don't care how it got there. One of my strengths is I love cleanliness. I like my environment to be clean. Sometimes when I go to blow leaves, I don't blow just in front of my house. I blow the next door neighbors. I may even go down the street. Because I have something to contribute to the whole. As a cheese, that is your charge. And build a network of people like you. Build a network of people who think and work like you. Think like you, motivated like you, and most importantly, give. Give what you can. God gave it to you free. Trust me. If you have it, I don't care if it came from another man. I don't care if it came from a woman. I don't care if it came from a child. The fact that you got it, that's God working through your fellow man to give it to you. So if you have a little bit to spare. Do whatever. Even if it's an apple that if you don't have money to give, there are lots of people out here who are hungry who can appreciate an apple or some carrots or something. Carry something that you can give. Do something within your community. As a chase, those are your expectations. So now I want to take some of the comments that people have made. Well, let's see. Zainab says that she's so blessed to be a part of the family. We are so blessed to have you as part of this family. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of our family. And we welcome you wholeheartedly. MGLN his bag says, let's see. And any one of you can talk about it. The greatest tool of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Yes. The civil war starts when people wake up their minds from government corruption, which is happening as we speak to in Africa. I think we pretty much have covered that. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I can't add any more to that. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And I think that that's the truth. Akachi says the legitimate president of Nigeria is Peter Obi. Facts. You know, and quite frankly, it doesn't have anything to do with because he's an Igbo man. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just like you said. The difficulties Nigeria is facing right now, or much of Africa is facing. We need good leaders. We need good leaders that will channel the resources properly to ensure that we build up the community. When the community is doing well, the country does well. If rich people, do you guys know that it is not rich people who enrich the country? Rich people save their money or buy big objects. The people who build economies are the poor people. When they have money, they're the ones that buy stuff. Yeah, this is the truth.
The engine of the economy.
They are the engine of the economy. So that's very true. Here's the one, Chiedozie, you can address this one, and Dibias, you can address this as well. This is from Mukuna Uchuku. She says, unfortunately, if you're having any conversation with anyone in Nigeria now, they use the Bible as a reference. Every discussion they start referring. Let me make sure it shows. every discussion, they start referring you to what happened in the Bible about the Israelites, about David, and these references has nothing to do with what is happening in today's world or Nigeria. Like Ikebura people, oh, every little thing they start telling you the Bible said. Dibias, your thoughts on that one?
Well, that is the effect of colonial missionary education.
Yep.
Because the purpose of colonization is to totally, like maybe sometime in the program I will read it out. There is this particular speech by Lopo II to the Belgian priests, Catholic priests that were to embark on a missionary journey to the Congo. And it started this way. He says, dear friends, dear compatriots, the mission you are about to embark into Africa is not to tell them about God. It's not to tell them about morality. It's not to make them better human beings. They are good human beings already. They know God already. They are more moral than us already. It is for you to go there and use portions of the Bible that will disadvantage them and advantage us, so that they will forever be colonized. He said, you will evangelize indeed, but you will evangelize the nigger, never to rise to confront us. He said, one thing you are to do is to deliberately attack their fetish system, which gives them courage for them to fight us. He said, then you will use parts of the Bible that encourage poverty, like happy are the peacemakers, for they shall inherit the earth. It will be difficult for the rich to enter heaven, and something, that one that Dibias just quoted, that the other preacher quoted. You see, these are deliberate ploys. So then you will distract them from the plenty under their ground and put their hopes in the sky. Then you shall build schools, but in the schools you do not promote the spirits. You will teach African students how to read, but not how to reason.
Oh,
and so this is what our schools are doing till tomorrow, until we take it and change it. And that's why I love what Dibias said about the young man who rose and said, it is time to grab the school. $20 million will not stop us. We're going to raise it and raise beyond it. We are going to turn the whole thing upside down and begin to groom future African minds.
Yes.
That is what colonization have done to us. Colonial missionary education, it's its agenda. And when we got independence, we were supposed to take away not just the schools, go on to go away the schools, but the curriculum remained the same. And so, and the missionaries, they took schools away from them, but the spirituality remained colonial. It's either Islam or Christian. Every structure of our society remains colonial. And so our children no longer know about our folklores, they no longer know about our proverbs, but they know all the stories of the Bible. And what still is American Pentecostalism. This is the worst, the last straw that broke the camel's back, because American Pentecostalism is all about emotion. The little reason left in foreign religion, American Pentecostalism takes it off. It takes it away completely, because American Pentecostalism is built on Pauline letters. And the Romans deliberately created Paul to denounce Christ, so that everything that Christ represents, reason, Pauline letters and Paul represents emotion. Because how do you exercise faith? He said, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, thou and thy house, and thou art saved. Faith alone, no work, no reason. That's what American Pentecostalism, hankers on. And so with American Pentecostalism, whatever is left for us to rationalize with is taken away completely. Unfortunately, Okenkapo, that rat that bites you and it will bite and then it will blow the breeze so you will not know the rat is biting you. It could finish your whole soul, the sole of your feet, without You know, you wake up the next morning and you discover a big sore beneath your legs. That's what the Americans are doing to Africans. They pretend, just like the Russians are coming in now, they pretend to be your friend, but they are worse enemies than even the European powers. And so, what you are saying, Ukuna, is exactly what colonization is supposed to do, and that's what they have achieved. The worst thing now is that they are no longer directly here, rather they have trained a handful of us who have continued the internal colonization. To round off this particular discussion, on my side, I remember when I started this journey on platform of Pan-African Movement of Nigeria, PAMON, somebody said, you, one day you become a Christian. And I responded to her, I said, until my dying days, I will continue to see Jesus and church, Muhammad and mosque as representing empire and colonization, conquest of Africa. And that's what they represent. So if we want to reverse this wrath, we must begin to enshrine Pan-Africanism in our education curriculum. Afrocentrism must be taught, and we must teach about our folklores. We must anchor education on our spirituality. When we anchor education on our spirituality, this issue that technology takes us away from culture. In Israel, technology has not taken them away from Judaism. In Arabia, it has not taken them away from, in Iran, technology has not taken them away from Sufism. In Arabia, Saudi Arabia, it's not taken away from Sunni Islam. In Asia, technology has not taken North Korea away from their culture of or Japanese from Shintoism. Even the Russia that we are talking about that is terrorizing the whole world now, they are doing so coordinatedly because they went back to their ancient tradition, the Russian Orthodox Church, which is built on Russian culture. They have their own pope. They don't follow the Pope of Rome. They don't follow any other Christian culture outside Russian distance. So they broke down Leningrad and took it back to St. Petersburg to build a common spirituality for themselves. So all this gay issue, homosexuality, transhumanism, transgender, the Russians don't want to hear it. They are holding to their ancient culture. And so the long short of it is that for science and spirituality, for science and technology to serve the people, they must be anchored on the people's spirituality. The reason why it is not serving is as if, like Dibias said, is as if technology and science and God are antithetical, is because of the Western American, European American influence. If you move outside the American European influence to the Jewish tradition, the Islamic tradition, the Russian tradition, the Asian tradition, God, technology, and science work hand in hand. They would.
They will. We're running out of time, so I'm just going to briefly, just pretty much reiterate, addressing the same question, but reiterating what Dibias Chidozie, talked about.
No. You didn't know. We're not going because of the time element.
Oh, yeah,
No.
Just really.
I'll have this question for you to answer. This one is for you.
Okay.
I want you to focus on something that Akachi Azubike said. Our focus is being stolen to the point we don't have original thought. The top scientists have proven our digital connection is disconnecting us from ourselves, creating mental disorders. What were the ways our people used to tap deep into our minds? Chiism Live, we're asking you, she's asking this question. So Yudi, I want you to answer that one. We can, which kind of feeds off a little bit what Dibias Chidozie said. So
yeah, it's all about the mind. It really is. That's really what this is all about. It's about the mind and compartmentalizing things, like I has said. Pan-Africanism, that thought process, the reasoning behind it is not so much as communities being able to give up a little bit of themselves for the good of the whole, but it's really understanding your relationship with nature. Because everything that has to do with religion, spirituality, science, it's about nature. There's nothing about science that has nothing to do, it's nature. Being a Pan-Africanist Being a cheers is understanding that relationship with nature and you as a spiritual human being, because everything is about nature, from trial and error. You will be able, this is the first conversation Chineke had with the first man and the first woman, Iventa and Ada. From trial, everything in the world that I've given you is for your good. From trial and error, you will be able to determine those things that are good for you to help perpetuate your existence on this earth. Everything we've learned about this earth, good or bad, is from trial and error. It was trial and error that let you know that okra is good to eat. It is also that let you know that the poison ivy is bad for you and what have you, some of them by accident. Science and religion and nature are one and the same. And that Pan-African mindset is what cheers our ancestors have always appreciated, embraced, to be able to solve problems, to resolve issues, and learn how to cooperate and live in an environment that is peaceful, where nature is respected. Because if everything is out of whack, just like in science, if everything is out of whack, we're out of whack. One more thing before I go. The only thing that can unite human beings is an existential threat from outside, like aliens. For as long as we as human beings do not experience any threat from the stars, we will never appreciate love and live in peace, because it's never been that way. Therefore, African people should understand the importance of loving oneself, your culture, and doing everything possible to protect yourself. Because if you don't do it, people are going to take advantage of you like they've done for centuries now, pillaging our resources, so on and so forth. And like Lord Lugard said, there is nothing that you're going to tell them about God they don't already know. But the idea here is for you to make them reject their God and embrace yours. For them to embrace poverty. For them to think that riches and wealth is bad for you spiritually. Imbue in their minds that the only thing that they should aspire to is life after death in heaven, in their heaven, not your heaven. Forget about your ancestors. Forget about all those things that bound you to your culture, your history, and yourself. Embrace their own.
Yes.
And once you start seeing yourself as an alien, this internal conflict starts from within you, then in your community. Cooperation becomes like a fleeting notion. You start seeing everything about you as evil. When people like me or Chido's here or you, okay, Dibias, we go and tell people that they should love themselves. Now we're the devil. Judged by the Bible that the oppressor brought to you to impugn our credibility, and all these people that are trying to tell you that you are responsible for your own survival become evil in your eyes. So when we're talking about things that are authentically African that you need to appreciate, and we talk about nation formation, building, and management, we are looked upon as the problem, as opposed to looking upon those people that brought their stuff to you. That's the problem that you're having today. So whether you like it or not, your problem in Africa is foreign religion, corruption, bad leadership, bad infrastructure. All those things are just a symbol of a larger problem.
Thank you so much, Yuki. Thank you, Dibias Children. We can go on and on and on. And if we didn't answer your question, please forgive us. It's because of the interest of time that we're not able to. But just remember, my brothers and sisters, your mind is a powerful tool. Hold on to it. Use it to work for yourself, to work for your community. Because without you, we're nothing at all. Ubuntu. I am because you are because I am. Without you, you are because of me. I am because of you, you are because of me, and without you, I'm nothing at all. So thank you, Dibias Chedozie. Thank you, Dibias Yudi. You guys were just fantastic today. And hopefully you can join us next week.
Okay, Dibias.
Yes,
to the people out there.
And we'll see you next week at the same time. you.